Side Hustle Show 203, how to stop just listening to the Side Hustle Show and start taking action.
Welcome to the Side Hustle Show, where aspiring part-time entrepreneurs learn how to turn their side hustle dreams into reality. Because your 9 to 5 may make you a living, but your 5 to 9 makes you alive. And now, your host, Nick Loper.
What's up? Nick Loper here. Welcome to the Side Hustle Show. A little bit of a different show for you today, as we're now 200 plus episodes deep into the program, and an alarming number of listeners are still sitting on the sidelines. In my last member survey, more than 40% of respondents said they were still in the idea stage. That is, looking for the right business idea or the right business model. Now, if you're in that boat, this is an episode for you, and it's actually inspired by a guest post pitch I received from Heather Gray. Heather is a clinically trained executive coach and corporate therapist with 15 years of experience. She reached out to me with a post pitch called How to Stop Just Listening to the Side Hustle Show and Start Taking Action. And I thought it was a compelling angle. Now, Heather writes over at choosetohaveitall.com, where she says she busts the myth that professional success and personal fulfillment are mutually exclusive. She works with clients all over the country and also locally in Wakefield, Massachusetts. What follows is my audio adaptation of her post, along with my commentary sprinkled in. You can find the full write-up with links included at sidehustlenation.com/203. Ready? Let's do it. Nothing gives me a shot of inspiration more than when I look at my podcast feed and see episodes like 0 to 20K a month or building a multi-million-dollar e-commerce brand on the side. These are some incredibly sexy and enticing titles, aren't they? Then you dive deep and you listen in. You hear people like John Haas say, once a book is out there, you're always making money. And you think to yourself, damn, why am I not doing that? Why him and not me? Yes, why aren't you doing that? Because you're getting in your own way. You're telling yourself that these people just got lucky. They had more time, more money, more support, more skills, or more knowledge than you. That they are somehow the exception to the rule. You convince yourself that you couldn't possibly mimic that kind of success, so you go on listening and never start doing. The only difference between you and these guests is that they took action. What is your completely uncensored dream you have for yourself? You might not be interested in podcasting or app development or writing Kindle books, and you'll tell yourself that's why you can't have a successful side hustle. Those things don't interest you, so there's no opportunity for you. Well, what do you want? What do you dream about building into a business or side income stream? So frequently, when I ask this question, I get a blank stare. It's hard to get really clear on your vision and your goals if you keep stopping at the perceived obstacles. The first step to being successful is to have a clear goal. What is the uncensored view of what you want if you ignore the necessary time, funding, experience, or knowledge? If you don't have to worry whether or not the idea is valid, what would you be doing? What lights you up, gets you excited? What makes you feel more curious and more inspired? Once you get clear on that, you can start breaking it down by problem-solving the obstacles rather than stopping at them. Without a clear goal, you'll never start. Now, jumping in here with a little bit of commentary, I don't know if I agree with that 100% because I didn't have a SMART goal, right? A specific, actionable, time-bound, SMART goal in mind, or some super clear vision of what I wanted Side Hustle Nation to become when I started, but it was almost something I had to do. It's kind of weird to try and explain, but that's how most of my projects have started. Something I thought would be fun and exciting and challenging and interesting to work on and hopefully profitable down the line. And remember, the journey is the destination, because even if you do have a clear goal in mind, what happens when you reach it? The answer is always the same. Well, now what? Still, I believe Heather's goal setting and clarifying questions are a worthwhile exercise. They're going to get you thinking, and if nothing else, will certainly help the process of elimination in identifying which tasks aren't going to get you closer to your goals. Let's jump back into her essay now. Accept that the hater in your head comes with the territory. We tell ourselves all kinds of stories sometimes. Many start to believe that successes, like the guests on the Side Hustle Show share, don't come until you believe in yourself, until all your ducks are in a row, until, on and on and on. Now, risk and vulnerability come with the package of being an entrepreneur until you are willing to accept that and take action anyway. You are trapped in your car listening to other people find success. Fear is not a reason not to do something. Be afraid, but to do it anyways. Jumping in here again, I did an entire show on my side hustle fears and included the fears of several brave volunteers from the community who sent in their voicemails. Even John Acuff, who has literally a quote, punch fear in the face as the subtitle of one of his books, admitted that the fear never really goes away. So remember, there's no such thing as the perfect side hustle or the perfect timing. There's just what you can do in the 24 hours in your day. All right, back to Heather. Stop learning and start doing. You really don't need to know all the things, at least not yet, not at the beginning. Of course, you'll feel more confident and ready if you had the website and the systems and the strategies all nailed down before you begin, but that's a trap. It provides a sense of psychological safety against the risks, the doubts, and the vulnerability that come with entrepreneurship. But all that learning can keep you standing still. You don't need to listen to all the podcasts, watch all the webinars, and take all the courses before you start. You just need to know what's next. What's the next actionable step? Learn that and do that. Say yes to the idea or the opportunity and then figure it out. Don't wait until all the pieces are in front of you. So I want to jump in here again. I first heard the term just-in-time learning from Jeremy Blanchard on a very early episode of the Side Hustle Show. And while I don't always succeed in practicing it, it's stuck with me and I think it's a really noble aspiration. There are a ton of things to learn, but when I narrow down that list to the things I need to learn in order to accomplish my next action item, it's a much smaller list. Now, in a way, just-in-time learning helps reduce distractions and keep me on task. Now back to Heather. Just start. If you're anything like me before I started my business online, you signed up for all kinds of lists and freebies. You've got more checklists, PDFs, and tip sheets than you know what to do with. Only focus on the beginner tasks for those just starting out and get to work on actually using them. So Heather recommends write down every idea you've had since you first started daydreaming about passive income and having a side hustle, and just itemize those out. Like, which one makes you most excited? Which one can you see yourself actually doing? You have to start somewhere. And I love this line. Picking what's next doesn't mean picking what's forever. Let me jump in here real quick again. Remember, the best opportunities aren't visible until you're already in motion. That nugget came from Ryan Finley in episode 72, talking about Craigslist flipping. Now, for me, the advice, just start, is frustrating when you don't know what to start. But the truth of it is, it doesn't really matter. Yes, I'm just as fearful as you, probably more so, of making the wrong choice and, the quote, wrong choice and picking something that's going to flop. But even that practice helps me get better and it sparks new ideas. If you've been listening to the Side Hustle Show for any length of time, you're already armed with dozens of viable business ideas. Everything from blogging to e-commerce to freelancing to even software. And if you're still stuck, there's a laundry list of ideas at sidehustlenation.com/ideas. The next step Heather recommends is to name your business and get that URL. Sure, you may pivot away from that original idea or dream later, but when you give your dream a name, when you give that business a name, it becomes real. It puts a stamp on that idea like, hey, I'm doing this. This is happening. And then it's easier to move ahead when you've made it real. Next, find 3 how-to resources for that idea or in support of that idea. And truthfully, 3 is probably too many, but that information will give you the confidence to move forward. These could be tutorials, blog posts, books, podcast episodes, courses, whatever, but cap it at 3. And what that means for each Side Hustle Show episode you listen to, take a minute at the end to write down one thing you're going to implement in your business. And then before you consume any more content, go do that thing. Next up, Heather recommends to dump anything you have collected that is irrelevant. Unsubscribe and unfollow anyone you are no longer interested in. Only accept content from mentors and people you have come to respect and whose vibe you're attracted to. An avalanche of info in your inbox is overwhelming and just serves to halt your progress. Now, personally, I hope I make the cut, but if I don't, that's okay. Like, I would rather have you take a week or a month or a year, heads down hustling and seeing results, and then come back when you're ready for more. I'll still be here. Next up, Heather recommends to schedule time to work on your business and make it non-negotiable. As non-negotiable as meeting with an actual person. Put it in your calendar. Keep that time sacred. If you have to reschedule it, commit to finding another time. Just don't put it off until next week or next month or next year. Timing is never perfect. And personally, I can attest to time blocking has been really helpful for me. I live and die by my Google Calendar. Next up, Heather recommends learning an organization system, and she recommends She says, I like Scrum, but I also use content calendars and good old-fashioned pen and paper. You have to map out your attack plan for your dream and break it down into steps. Find a system you buy into and choose that. Easier is always better. Now, again, for me, it's mostly just pen and paper and time blocking on the calendar. For longer projects, I'll create a dedicated project workbook and even a timeline in Excel like I did for the Buy Buttons book. But remember, if you're listing steps 1 through 10, step 10 doesn't matter if you never act on step 1. Find a coach, accountability partner, mentor, or interest group. When you're just dreaming in your head, it's easy to put your dreams off until later. If you find someone who is a couple years ahead of you of where you want to be on your journey, see if you can partner up with them as a mentor-mentee relationship. I initially hired a coach because I had no idea what I wanted to do. This is Heather speaking. She helped me develop a vision, and then I joined a coaching group to work on implementation and execution. For me, a mastermind group has been really helpful from the accountability standpoint and just, a network of peers to bounce ideas off of. And on top of that, there are Facebook groups related to just about every side hustle imaginable. Just search. And finally, Heather recommends to invest in yourself. This one is always controversial because people like to be scrappy and do it all themselves. And she says, I went into debt for my dream and I don't regret it. Both my coach and my website designers were put on a credit card. That's not everyone's thing. I know, but I knew that tech would always be my weakness. And I knew that without a clear vision, I would fail before I even began. So I set myself up for success by sticking to what I did best and hiring the hard parts out. I want to jump in here because this advice admittedly makes me a little nervous. I don't want to see anyone going into debt, but I will agree with the sentiment that sometimes businesses have startup costs. Like, that's a reality. I mean, you could still be scrappy and bootstrap. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. And one example that comes to mind is when I finally broke down and paid for lead pages a couple years ago. My business is like 40 times bigger now, in part because I now had a tool that made it easier to grow. Another example would be Rosemary Groner from a few weeks ago. She gave the example of investing in the Elite Blog Academy course and following it step by step by step and seeing amazing results with that. So back to Heather. Swallow the mindset medicine. Paulo Coelho reminds us that the only thing that makes a dream impossible is the fear of failure. Jack Canfield tells us everything we want is on the other side of fear. Michael Hyatt challenges us not to fear failure, saying instead we should fear being in the exact same spot next year as we are today. I really like that line. That is kind of scary to think about. Now, we all, unless you're, of course, already happy with where you're at. Now, we all know this. We see these quotes, we pin them, we share them, we post them, but they don't work until you start living them, until you move. Inspiration and motivation mean nothing without action. You have to move. It's non-negotiable. Get clear on what it is you want. Wave to the hater in your head as you pass by and take action. The one thing question. What is the one thing you can do today that gets you closer to being the person you want to be and have the life you want to have? What's the one thing, this is from the book, what's the one thing I can do right now such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Start every day with that question and put the answer into action. And who knows, a year from now, maybe you'll be the one on the other side of the mic sharing your story with Side Hustle Nation. So start hustling. You got this. Again, this was adapted from an article written by Heather Gray from ChooseToHaveItAll.com. Go check her out. She's a clinically trained executive coach and corporate therapist with 15 years of experience. She works with clients to identify what they want but don't have and teaches the movement required to get it. That's it for me. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I'm grateful that you would choose to spend some time with me today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be good to each other. Practice gratitude. Control what you can control. And until next time, let's go out there and make something happen. I'll catch you in the next edition of The Side Hustle Show. Hustle on.
Thanks for listening to The Side Hustle Show at www.sidehustlenation.com.